Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Tax Thursday. I am your host, DDQ, here with Smart Counsel's tax resident attorney, Dion Kellier. Happy Tax Thursday,
Happy
Dion.
Tax Thursday, Dee Dee. How are you?
I am doing well. How are
I
you?
am perfect. Oh, so much better. Last week, I was like, I haven't been sick in a long time. And trust me, I don't want to be sick for another long, long time.
It has to add up and then just hit you all at once.
It knocked me over the head. I was like, oh my God, somebody take me to the hospital. Anyway.
I'm glad you're doing better. You look great. We're excited to hop into another new topic of Tax Thursday. Check out the Smart Counsel website if you haven't already. That website link is www.smart-counsel.com. There you will learn more about the minority and woman-owned firm and also about each attorney, their practice areas, and what Smart Counsel is up to nowadays. This week's new topic is going to be what the IRS rules are for deducting workflows and tools, which we kind of talked about in the last episode a little bit based on a Instagram post I think you saw. So I guess first question is, let's just hop right into it. I don't want to jump the gun, you know what I mean? So you just let me know.
Okay, so you know that as I started last week, it makes me crazy when I see these things on Instagram that do not give you the full information, okay? So we're going to talk about the rule, we're going to talk about certain things, and then, we're going to go from there. So if you had a W-2, if you had a job as a W-2 employee, you would be able to pay for the clothes yourself or your employer would reimburse you for it. But as a 1099 contractor, you can write off the cost for a work clothes purchase. It's very specific items that qualify for this, all right? So to put it simply, you're able to deduct the clothes that you wear for services or jobs, but only under certain circumstances, So it boils down to this. If you can wear the clothing for everyday use, then you cannot deduct those items. And they need to be created so that you can wear them only at work. So the IRS allows for certain items of clothing to be written off as a business expense depending on how they're used. Eligible pieces of clothing can be claimed alongside your other deductible expenses on Schedule C of your tax return. And so you have to be self-employed or a contractor to write your work clothes off. If you're a regular W-2 employee, you're either going to have to swallow the cost for the uniforms or, which typically happens, the job provides it for you. And so you don't have to, you don't necessarily have to worry about writing it off on your tax return. The way the IRS says to think about it is think about scrubs versus a suit. A suit you can wear anywhere outside of work, even if you only wear suits to work. But scrubs, nobody typically wears scrubs anywhere but outside of being a doctor or a nurse or somebody that works in the hospital. So that's the rule of thumb. And we're going to get into, some of the more you wouldn't think that it would be written off, but they are. And you're going to love it. So what the gentleman said that I saw on Instagram, he was not wrong in his initial statement, but his explanation of it is what would lead someone in the wrong direction.
Now, do you remember exactly what he did say?
Yeah, he said that if you have clothing and you stitch, so you can buy clothing and you own a business, if you stitch your logo on it, whether on the inside or the outside, then you can write off the stitching, you can write off the clothing, you can write off all of anything associated with it. So if you bought a Hermes shirt or a Louis Vuitton shirt and then I put Smart Counsel in it, it would appear as if it's something that could be written off. So can you get a write-off for promotional items, all right? Yes, you can. If you are going to a trade show or for a photo shoot, then they can count as an advertising expense for your business. So you could deduct the cost of the item and you could deduct what it took to get your logo put on there, right? But very specifically, you have to be wearing it to a trade show or a photo shoot, right? So it's not that you could just get clothes and then embroider your name on it and then it's tax deductible. So that's why I say you have to read the beginning and the end. And believe you me, the IRS loves to see you claim that your clothing is tax deductible. Like a realtor, for instance, right? That wears suits every day and, they
Yeah.
dress up. Guess what? That is not tax deductible. Why is it not tax deductible? Because you can wear that suit in another environment. If you have your police uniform, that's different. Because can you wear your
Right.
police uniform outside of Halloween to somewhere else? No, you can't. Right? And
Right.
so
Exactly.
like that's like the difference. So that's why I started off. Think of suits and scrubs. A suit you can repurpose. You can wear it to church. You can wear it to a funeral. You can wear it to a wedding. You can wear it to dinner. You can wear it to brunch. You can wear it to, I don't know, the mall.
And so with something like, I guess if if an employee were to swallow up that cost themselves and pay out of pocket, they don't have the option to deduct that from their taxes whatsoever, right?
Whatsoever. If you are a
Okay.
W-2 employee, all of your expenses should be covered in your paycheck. So your
Right.
job should reimburse you. So if you are right at a job and you are a
Mhm.
W-2 employee and you have to wear a uniform and you're providing you're paying for the uniform, which most jobs, I would say, they're not going to make you pay for it. Why? Because it is a deductible expense to them to pay for
Them.
it for
Exactly.
you.
Hmm.
So if you are at
Exactly.
a job that requires you to wear a uniform and they are not reimbursing you for it, reach out to me and we'll have a conversation. Because what if they're requiring you to wear a black shirt and black pants? Yeah. But if they're requiring you to wear that's why like people that work at stores and they get a 70% discount on, like people that work at Louis Vuitton, for instance, they get like a 60%
Hmm.
discount on whatever because they have to be dressed like that. Yeah, you're not going to get reimbursed for it, but you got a 60% discount.
Right.
So
Right. Right. And so if someone were to wear a promotional shirt to a trade show or like a conference or anything like that, when they're filing that on their taxes, do they need to include that
if
information or like that receipt or whatever from the trade show?
So if I was advising you, I would suggest make sure you tie it all together and keep a permanent record. I
Yeah.
got this shirt for what MJ Biz, whatever it is, and I wore
Mhm.
it on X amount, X day, and you maybe have a picture that you're like this, you have your shirt on, so that in the event the IRS audits you, you have proof, and you at least try to follow the law as much as possible,
Okay,
right?
cool. That definitely makes sense. Good clarification there, especially when it gives the example of like a scrub
Yeah.
or a police officer, like a firefighter uniform or anything like that.
Exactly. So, and even though people wear scrubs as kind of like, I have a pair of scrubs I used to walk the dog in, and I love them. And they're like, I don't even know where I got them from, and they're super comfortable. But
Yeah.
if I was, I'm not in any medical field, which I couldn't be anyways, because I can't take blood and guts and ick. But like, if you had that, you still, and if I wore it to walk the dog, or if I wore it to work, it's still, typically only for people that work in the medical field. So,
Right,
in
right,
regards to uniforms, you could deduct the cost of uniforms and their upkeep, which is the dry cleaning, if both of the following apply. Your job requires that you wear the special clothing, such as a uniform. Like you can't go to work without it, basically. And the
right.
clothes are not suitable for everyday wear. So, for example, a uniform with a company logo isn't suitable for everyday wear, so it would qualify as a tax deduction. So, if you had like a Publix logo on your polo shirt, I'm pretty sure you're not going to wear that Publix shirt to brunch. But you might,
Right.
you know? So work clothes are tax deductible if the employer requires you to wear them every day, but they cannot be worn. They cannot have everyday wear, such as a uniform. But like as I said, a suit you cannot deduct. I don't care what your job is. And also, which I found very interesting, is you could fully deduct small tools with a useful life of less than 1 year, and you deduct them in the year that you buy them. However, if the tools have a useful life for more than 1 year, you have to depreciate them. But we're in the time of bonus depreciation, so you could still depreciate it all in 1 year. And you can usually
Hmm.
tools typically have a 7 year class life, and or it could be used as a Section 179 expense deduction. But we have the until 2025, we have the beauty of bonus depreciation. So if you have tools that have a longer that can be useful for more than a year, then you can deduct the full amount in the year that you purchased it. You can deduct the cost of tools as an unreimbursed employee expense on Schedule A if both of these apply. You work for an employer rather than being self-employed, and you're required to have the tools of your trade. So that is the only exception. If you are a W-2 employee but you have to purchase your own tools, that is fully deductible, because it's mostly people in the construction industry that are W-2 employees, but like they have to provide their own tools, because a lot of times the jobs don't provide the tools for them. And I know Home Depot has a great program for people that buy their own tools. So let's see.
And so, is there like a certain requirement with tools as it is with clothing? Like it can only be used for work,
So I feel like the
but
rules are a little less stringent in that the IRS doesn't understand how long like a drill lasts for, right? But
right, exactly.
right, so like I feel like you have to be reasonable, and I feel like you probably will get audited. But like if you're a construction person that is working on a building, and you're doing like the drywall, as opposed to the
Hmm.
construction person that's the electrician in the building, and they use a different set of tools. I feel like there has been enough people that have been audited in that profession to the IRS to have set a standard. I haven't had to defend somebody in that yet, but I think that their position is going to be more reasonable, and they're going to be more defendable than somebody with clothing, right? Because I feel like the person
Right,
with clothing will try to write off the Louis Vuitton whatever, but I don't feel like the construction person is going to buy Louis Vuitton tools and try to write it off.
right. Especially if they saw that Instagram post.
Exactly. It makes me crazy. It like grinds my gears when I hear things like that. Okay, but
Right.
there are some interesting caveats. All right.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into those.
Right? Okay, so number one, you have to be required to wear it. And it's called a construction. So if you're a construction worker, there's a construction worker tax deduction. But whatever worker you are, you'll have your tax deduction. It's not suitable for everyday wear. That's where we're doing the suits and the scrubs, and laundry is included. If you have to, if the clothing qualifies as tax deductible, then the laundry or dry cleaning is included. And if you have to travel for business purposes and you can prove it, then the laundry and the dry cleaning expenses can also be deducted. There's an IRS publication. I want to say there's one 463, and there's another one is 532. I have it in for reference, but the expense has to be ordinary and necessary. So examples of work attire that count as as a business expense: protective gear. So if you have to have like the eye coverings, or if you run a business or service that needs protective clothing, then those clothes should be tax deductible. And so let's see. And if you have to provide, let's see, safety boots and hard hats, for instance, if you're in construction. This is where, okay, let me do uniforms or work-related clothing. Uniforms worn at the workplace, just like protective gear, can also be tax deducted, and it has to be obvious, and it is ineligible to be worn in your personal life, and it was only created for work. So, for example, if polo or overalls that you receive the company logo can get a tax deduction. However, a pair of khaki pants that you have on with the polo shirt would not be tax deductible. Scrubs, of course, are tax deductible. With that in mind, each state also has its different laws on what kind of clothing can be deductible. So if your state law runs in contravention to federal law, you should go with what the federal law says, because your IRS federal taxes are federal, and then whatever happens in your state happens at the point of your federal taxable income.
Interesting.
Yes, and military uniforms are also technically work oriented. So even though people do wear them outside of work, military uniforms are fully tax deductible. And so unless there's a rule at the workplace that prevents you from wearing the uniform outside, you are not able to write it off. But this is what I found very interesting. So costumes. Entertainers, actors, and musicians need to pay a lot for their work-related clothing, and they are able to deduct their stage costumes with one condition: that it's not suitable for everyday wear. So there was a performer in Las Vegas that they were like, listen, you can wear, you're a performer, you're out there anyways, your clothes shouldn't be tax deductible, until she had her hearing, her trial, and she went into court wearing one of the costumes, and then the IRS was like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous, so it is tax
Right.
deductible. The costumes that everybody wears to the Met Gala, those are tax
Oh,
deductible.
really?
Those are. That's
Wow.
one of the
Wow.
ones where you're like, okay. So they could
I mean,
pay,
it makes
right?
sense.
They could pay $100,000. So like for entertainers especially, they could pay $100,000 for this outfit, $700,000 for this outfit, whatever the number is. It's tax deductible. Like we don't know that until now.
Right, exactly. You wouldn't really think about that unless you're in that profession.
Exactly.
And you're like, I just spent so much money on this costume.
Exactly.
Do I get any kind of return on it? Very
And that's
interesting.
why the Met Gala, it totally makes sense that they always set a theme, and it is a costume. Like you never see somebody in just like a little black dress.
Right, right, right. That's a good point. Wow, very interesting.
Yes, exactly. So let's see. The IRS is relatively clear that you can only expense clothing related costs that relate to a job specific apparel. And generally speaking, if you could wear it as part of your non work wardrobe, it's not a business expense. You should save all your receipts that pertain to the your business specific clothing, including both purchases and care receipts. And at the end of the year, total them up. It'll be on your Schedule C. But now we have the benefit of being able to scan things so you can keep them forever, because you're really going to want to keep them forever, because if you are expensing clothing, you will be audited. I'll say you might only be in line to people in the marijuana industry as far as being audited.
Right.
Right.
Clothing and marijuana.
Exactly. You will be audited. And because, so for, if you have a sole proprietorship, it is particularly beneficial to you because it just lessens what your taxable income would be. It has to be ordinary and necessary, and so that means that it's normal for taxpayers in your line of work. So if they give an example, if you're a writer that works from home, chances are you won't be able to deduct any clothing.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What about clothes that are rented?
They are tax deductible. So the rule is if you purchase them and they would be tax deductible,
Mhm.
renting them would also make it tax deductible. So let me see. I do have the rented may qualify if it means if it meets the requirements of above. So if you have to rent safety gear for a gig or a distinctive costume for a promotional shoot, then they are tax deductible. So let's see. If you have to wear a bandana or a t-shirt to get a doll walking bonus from WAG, then that's tax deductible. If you had to buy a crazy hat for an acting audition because you're furthering your career and you are self-employed, then that is tax deductible. Investing in a historical getup for a Renaissance themed Patreon skit, that is tax deductible. And you could write it off if you have to get paid to wear it. So where is that going, right?
Yeah.
So I see what that guy was saying. So we're going to circle back. I see what he was saying. But it doesn't apply to I want to say it doesn't apply to the average Joe. So if you are an Instagram influencer, right, and it is your job to be influencing and to purchase items, all of that stuff is tax deductible, right? Because you're taking,
Even if you get like a like a promo from the designer or anything like that, is that
well, you're
still
not paying for it, right? So if it's a promo, you're not
right?
paying for it, right? So it would be tax deductible. But now, if you're the IRS, there's always a double edged. There's always a double edged
Yeah.
sword. Because if I get this promo item, that yes, it's not going to be tax deductible to me, but there is a value assigned to it from the person giving it to me.
Mhm.
Is that considered income? It might be, right? Because what's your benefit? Or is your benefit you're getting paid to wear the outfit, or is the benefit that you get to wear the outfit? If the benefit, in
Right.
my opinion, if the benefit is that you get to wear the outfit, then the value of the outfit is going to be considered income.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get paid to wear the outfit, then it's just like, anything else.
Right. And I guess it kind of leads me to I'm just kind of thinking of different situations, different
Yeah.
scenarios. What about pageants and like Miss America.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you asked that because I have a slide that discusses makeup. And so if you are a professional makeup artist, the cosmetics that you use are tax deductible because you need them for your day-to-day business. So if you are, now let's go into, if you're in a pageant, you need the makeup, you need the clothes. The clothes is a costume. The makeup is I would say it's a deductible business expense.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's what I would too, because you're not going to wear that any of those stuff really outside of that scene, if that makes
No,
sense.
it absolutely makes sense. Anything that you're going, if you have to wear it to be in the activity, which we are going to call it work, it would be tax deductible outside of a suit, right? Because like, would a bathing suit be tax deductible? Well, are you wearing the bathing suit for promotional purposes? Then it's probably tax deductible. Are you going to wear the bathing suit walking down Fifth Avenue? Probably not. So like there are, I feel like you have to have a level of reasonableness, but if you cannot repurpose it, then it is tax deductible. And it is, but you have to be so careful because you don't want to put yourself in the crosshairs of the IRS for no reason. And like my number one, when I was going through this, my number one people that I was thinking about were realtors, because realtors, they do dress the part, right? They wear suits, they wear nice suits, they wear, they may have their logo in it, but they can wear their suit to happy hour after. And the IRS is like, yeah, no, we're not.
Exactly. It's kind of like the same thing with attorneys, right? Like going to trial or going to court to dress nice.
Absolutely.
There is a certain dress code, right, when you are going to court.
Absolutely.
But that won't be tax deductible.
It's not going to be
because you can wear that.
tax deductible, right? But then now that makes me think of, and I know that they do this in Louisiana because they do civil law, but like the attorneys that have to wear the white wigs and the black robes.
Oh, I did not know that's still a thing.
It is, but it is in Europe, and it is in, I want to say it is in Louisiana because they follow like they do civil law versus common law, but whatever. But if you have to get that, and the only way you can walk into court is wearing that, that is definitely tax deductible. I would make the argument 1,000 different ways that yes, that nobody's wearing that little crunchy white wig anywhere.
Right. That is so funny.
So yeah.
So would you say that it's like safest for taxpayers to try to include what they think fits within that, I guess, requirements as much as they can, and then kind of see how that goes? Either way, will they get audited by the IRS?
I feel like if I was going to be a person that took advantage of this tax code, it's not even take advantage of the tax code, use this tax code to my advantage, because if you know the tax code, proper tax planning is not illegal. They give you this information so that you can use it to your advantage. Most people just don't, right? So if I was a person that would utilize this, I would make sure I am super conservative on what it is that I try to claim, right? Like, do I claim, I don't claim anything that I wear to work because I can use it for anything. But if I wore something, I guess if I wore a smart counsel robe to work, like when I'm doing hearings or doing meetings, I would try to write that off. But probably I wouldn't try to write anything off, because like I would definitely get the Louis Vuitton shirt and put smart counsel on it. I'm for sure gonna do that. They're gonna be like, listen, sweetheart, no way, absolutely not. So
that's funny. So pretty much be conservative with what you are writing off if you decide to write off clothes. But if you are working like in the medical or like law enforcement, that's pretty given. Like it's given, right? Like it's self-explanatory that can be written off if it's coming out of. But does that count even if you are? So it says if you're a contractor or if you're paying out of pocket,
right?
For that.
So if you are a W-2 employee, typically what happens if you're a W-2 employee and say you're a police or a firefighter, you get a stipend. And from that stipend, you're able to purchase your suits or whatever, your uniforms, or they give you in your paycheck, they give you like a monthly allowance for whatever. And possibly you can, as a W-2 employee, you can possibly write off the dry cleaning, but it is very difficult, especially since tax reform, to, as a W-2 employee, to take advantage of things that are left to independent contractors. That's basically how that works. So before, you're able to write off your home office as a W-2 employee, tax reform got rid of that. You can't do that. So as a contractor now, you are able to write off like everything. So I don't think that a police could be an independent contractor, but possibly a firefighter could be one. But
like a volunteer fire? What about like that?
A volunteer firefighter, I would think, if you're paying money out, so where are you gonna get? If you're making $0, can you take expenses from something that you're making $0 from? I don't know. Yeah. I think I would, because I do think that volunteer firefighters, do I think they're 100% volunteer, like 100% $0 reaching their pocket? I don't think so. I think there's some sort of, maybe it's nominal, but some sort of, monetary component. But maybe you can't live off of that monetary component. But I do feel like if you're going to be running into a burning building, I don't think that like $0 is going to do it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So to wrap up today's episode, what would you say would be our takeaways with this very tricky, interesting topic?
Okay. So think suits and scrubs, right? If it's likened to a suit that you can repurpose and wear to church, to brunch, to a funeral, to a wedding, you cannot write it off. But if it's like a scrub or a police uniform or a military uniform, then it's something similar to that. Or if you're an entertainer and you're going to the Met Gala, or if you're a performer and you would never wear what you go on stage wearing anywhere else but on stage, then I would write it off. Keep permanent records of everything. And if you are somebody that uses tools, then those tools are basically either depreciable or tax deductible, depending on how long their usefulness is.
Right. Okay, perfect. So costumes, scrubs, any uniforms like that, something that you're not going to wear outside of that work situation, write it off. It's all included on the same tax form. It's under Schedule C. Yes. Is that correct?
Schedule C, and if you are a sole proprietor, Schedule A.
Cool. Perfect. Awesome. I think that helps clear up a lot of confusion, a lot of avoidance of being audited if you are one of those people that's going to write your logo or your name on a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci kind of clothes and tires. So thank you so much again for that, Dion. I love when we were able to bring kind of like fact check Instagram posts or anything like that can really misguide a lot of people and avoid these kind of situations with the IRS. So
yes,
thank you again so much.
No problem. And it makes me crazy. I don't like people being set up for failure. And that's, that's the real of it. So like, if you see something, and Google is your best friend, but anybody could put anything on Google. So like the IRS code is actually your best friend. And then go from there.
Right. And if you guys do have any further questions, send them over to us via DM or drop a comment down below or email us at attorney@smart-counsel.com so we can help clarify things for you. Dion, thanks so much again. And thank you all for tuning in to another brand new episode of Tax Thursday. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. Go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. And until next time, we will see you guys next week for a new episode and new topic.
Thank you so much, Didi. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.